You remember that conversation
it would be like a massive backlash.
Way back in the day about like my opinion of why I don't buy games, specifically licensed games from Activision. And it was the whole thing is like, well, you know, if every year for 10 years your uncle literally packaged you a gift wrap shipped for Christmas and you opened it expecting it not to be shit, on the 11th year you're just not going to open it anymore. Even if it's a great game, you're just like, well, it's been shit 10 years in a row. Yeah.
But yeah, so they had to change the flagging system to where it just, all of it counts, whether the server's on or not.
Yeah, they
so
basically
like,
just had
that's
to
why
change
all of it happened.
all the licenses for all of the skins to just be open so it didn't require the server anymore.
Yeah. So since it did it to all of them, everybody got every skin.
Alright. Well, welcome to the Vomitorium, everyone. As always, I'm your host, The Metal, and joining me is my co-host, Marsupial Gamer, and once again, Buck's here today.
Yellow.
How you guys doing?
Buck's got to get a webcam so he can see his beautiful face. I guess not.
See, I still haven't bothered to get a webcam because it always like struck me as the fact that, one, I don't really do much that requires one, and two, it was a bit of a shock that this computer didn't come with one in the first place.
Yeah, I remember that too, because you had to get like a microphone and everything because it didn't even have, since it didn't have a webcam, it didn't have an onboard mic. And like, you got the more expensive computer out of the two of us, and yours didn't come with the webcam.
Yeah, it was weird. No, instead I just got a more annoying and more like in-your-face version of NVIDIA that's like, oh, you want to use OBS? Screw you, I'm going to try and record too.
You can disable that, it's not that hard.
Yeah, the only problem is once it starts, it screws up the connection to OBS and everything just slows to a crawl.
No, I mean like you could go into your registry and permanently disable that so it doesn't start up. I know they like to make that a little difficult because they want you to use the stuff that comes on board, which is why everybody has workarounds to where you could just permanently disable it because NVIDIA's capture and all the competitors, they're just not as good as getting like OBS or some other capture service that has been proven to work time and time again.
I'm just tweeting the show out.
Yeah.
Sorry, getting.
No, it's fine. Let some.
I got some interesting DMs as we were going live.
Oh, interesting.
And I used them to tweet out the show. Yes.
Yeah.
I have a crazy Australian who's put a bounty on my head, which you know about already, but apparently
Liam's still around?
He's re-upping the bounty.
People give him the time of day? I didn't even know this.
No, his tweet has 8 views, 0 likes, 0 retweets, 0 replies. From 14 hours ago. It's had absolutely no interaction whatsoever.
I like,
tweeted at me from behind a block, by the way.
I like that they show views now.
Yeah,
I actually do. Because like there are people with like, I don't know, anywhere between 5 to 12 times my follower count, because my follower count's low. I think I'm somewhere like 500 to 600, and that's only because of how long I've been on Twitter. It's not because people actually really follow me. But like my views, while they'll be small, will be like 2 to 3 times higher than people who have like a much higher follower count. Like, are your followers bots? Are they dead followers or whatever? Are they just not showing up in the feed? Or I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know if it's the check mark or what, but I've been getting a lot of interactions on Twitter, just like crazy amounts. Just from like, I'll reply to anything and I'm like, wow, is this Am I popular? Probably not. But I think it's the check mark because I think my replies show up near the top of any thread or whatever. But
yeah, that pay to play.
I mean, and also
I
because
refuse to pay Twitter.
That's okay. But also because I think, like you and I both, our followers are organic. Like they followed us because they found us interesting, not because, I don't know. Like I think a lot of famous, like in organizations and famous people follow them just because they like recognize them, but they have no interest in anything they have to say. You know?
Yeah, this is why I think my very low growth on Twitter has always been organic, but I've always had good engagement.
Yeah.
Yeah. Up until maybe like the last couple years where I have not been. More than a couple years, maybe the last few years where I just don't post that often on Twitter. But going back, I always had good engagement. And it's because I was on Twitter long enough and I was engaging in certain communities that like I had people that were like legacy check marks that followed me because they liked my engagement. Like Nice Peter, I think, still follows me. I think the band Trivium, who was actually managed the page by one of the band members because they still, despite how big they are, they have that like kind of garage band vibe on how they operate everything. Followed me for the longest time too. They might still follow me, but it's like it was always cool back then when some big thing followed you because you knew they followed you for an organic reason, and that's not so much the case anymore.
Yeah. Well, and I've also found that there is a snowball effect if one person who's popular in a group follows you, a bunch more people from that group follow.
Yeah.
So, like, I had some anime people follow me, and then a whole bunch more anime people followed.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, and then I had like Yellow Flash followed me months and months ago, but after him, it was not very long before Ethan Van Sciver followed me, and then Shane Davis and his wife Yanzi Lin, and I think Nerdrotics and stuff like that, because they're all friends, and they see me interacting with him, and I think they see that he's following me, and then it's just yeah,
because if you see a thread, it'll have like the important people on the side, up to 3. They never show more than 3, but they'll have the important people on the side. So if you're interacting with the thread, you would be one of the 3 people that are right there. Yeah,
and if they like hover over, if they're following a person and they hover over like my name,
followed by
they'll
76 people you follow. It's like, oh, I should probably follow this guy too.
Right. So, but yeah, people will follow, whatever, John Cusack or something, not knowing any, just because he's a famous guy, but then he tweets stupid shit and nobody likes it. So,
so I tend to unfollow people like that too. Like, there's definitely a lot of people I followed way back just because they were like famous people and they were hopping on. And back then, it wasn't like some brand manager was using their page. When I think 2014-ish is when that started to change. But from like, I hopped on in 2011. So I think from like 2008-ish when Twitter really started rolling to about 2014, when you saw like a famous person on Twitter, it was actually that person using their account. And then around like 2014, they started getting like their managers and their with agents and stuff like that are running their accounts for them.
So they probably should have kept with, because I feel like a lot of them went back to managing their own Twitter, and then that's when it got stupid.
Yeah.
That's when they started saying ridiculous shit.
But I have to unfollow people when I see certain things. It's like, and it's not even about their own opinion, right? Like, I'm even fine with people having outrageous opinions on my feed if I could tell it's their opinion. My problem is I don't want to see like 50 Hollywood sheep where you can tell the way that they're just like copy pasting. It's not their opinion, posting their bullshit, right? Yeah. Because I could have a good conversation or interaction with somebody who strongly holds the opinion that they hold. But like,
hey Rick,
if John Cusack, I don't know, was tweeting something about like Black Lives Matter, it's like I doubt he actually believes that. And I don't want to see that on my feed. Get out of here.
Yeah. Well, do you want me to give you my spoiler-free review of Super Mario Brothers?
Let's stop talking about fucking Twitter. Let's go, as it says on the thing, or get more into character. Let's go. What you saw Mario movie matinee? It's out
Very
today.
first showing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
How'd you feel about it?
I felt pretty good. I will say that I was maybe a little ridiculously excited to see it. And I was honestly thinking I would get out of the movie, go get another ticket, and go right back in and see it again. I didn't do that because it wasn't as just utterly spectacular as I expected. I mean, from the trailers, I was like, oh my God, this is going to be the best movie I've ever seen. Like, I really thought that. Like, I thought it's possible that this could be absolutely spectacular. I mean, I was just like really hyped about it. I took the whole day off work just so I could see it potentially multiple times. So I will say that it is not spectacular, but it's really good. I gave it an 8 out of 10, and that's on a my version of the metal scale where
like a bell curve.
Yeah, where a 5 is not actually a bad score; it's an average. Where a 5 is, maybe don't see it in a theater, but it would be good to see at home or something.
Yeah, well, so you're probably, if I were to take a guess,
I try not to inflate.
you're probably closer to my expectations, but you're probably also not as nitpicky as I will end up being.
No.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
Like that, which is probably why. Because my expectation before going into it is, I said it was going to be probably a little higher than mid. I was expecting somewhere between like a 6 to a 7 ish. Mm-hmm. But that's also probably because I'm going to be more nitpicky about it than the average person will.
Yeah. So yeah, but I was kind of like wavering between like 7.5 and an 8, and I was like, no, you know what? I really enjoyed it. I really want to give it an 8. And, so unfortunately not a 9 or 10. I think there were a few things that if they had done it differently, I'll tell you what, if it had been a bit more of a traditional saving Peach story, that would have earned it an extra, half a point to a point. If Peach wasn't quite as much of a girl boss.
I heard she was an insufferable girl boss at times. Like, it wasn't the whole way, but like at times.
Well, let me just give my overall. So, okay. So obviously tons of fan service. I loved it. This is like, oh my gosh, that's from Mario 2. Oh my gosh, that's from 3D World. Oh my gosh, that's from, this, that, and the other. They had the cat suit and the squirt. Was it squirrel or
there is a flying squirrel outfit? Yeah.
No, it's the raccoon. The raccoons.
Okay.
Yeah, there's.
Well, raccoon was not really a suit, right? So the raccoon was just the ears and the tail, but there was also a tanuki suit, which looked like a raccoon, and that's the one that could turn you into.
Okay, I guess it was the tanuki.
Yeah, it's just later on, like in New Super Mario Brothers for the Wii. They took the raccoon suit's abilities, but the tanuki suit for appearance.
Yeah, I guess. Because he never turned into a statue. But basically, there was a raccoon Mario. Yeah. I guess you could call it the tanuki suit. And there was a cat suit. And there's...
where's the frog suit, damn it?
No frog. That's a good point. Yeah. There was an opportunity for that. I will say that the trailers, I wish that I hadn't watched the trailers because those, I guess, I hate when they do this, but those were the best parts of the movie. Which is not to say the rest was bad, but it was like those were the kick-ass, like, oh, that's awesome kind of parts. So I almost wish I hadn't watched that. I will say, so Peach was a bit of yeah, I guess you could say she was a girl boss, but at least they had some explanation. I don't think it spoils it too much to say. Basically, she was like, well, I've been in the Mushroom Kingdom my whole life.
Yeah, I heard that explanation, and I thought that was like literally the worst explanation they could pick for it.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
if you have that the explanation, why do you need Mario?
Well, because... So it was heavily implied that essentially only humans could do this kind of dynamic stuff. Well, humans and Donkey Kong apparently, the Toads weren't any help,
Yeah.
right? And so it was just Peach. She didn't have an army. She didn't have anyone. It was just her. And if she's going to take on Bowser's entire army, she can't do it by herself. So when Mario shows up, not only is it like, okay, he needs to save his brother, but also I need help because I can't just take on this, entire army by myself. So she takes him. And in fact, well, I'm just trying to, I'm really trying not to spoil it. But I think I think it's clear from the trailers, they go to meet with Donkey Kong.
Yeah.
Right. And he ends up like challenging him and saying, if I fight you and beat you, will you give us help? Right. So, he ends up being very helpful. Like she wouldn't have gotten I don't want to go into too many spoilers, but it wasn't contrived for him to be there. I don't think. I mean, it wasn't.
Yeah.
But, and I will say that there was a character progression of Mario. He doesn't, he's a plumber from the real world, from Earth or whatever. He doesn't have these abilities. He
There's
doesn't
actually
have
a problem that I have, right? Because I do know, well, honestly, the movie's already been spoiled for me. We're just trying to save it for the audience at this point that we're not spoiling it. Because we have no idea who has and hasn't seen it that might be watching this. And it is still new. So, we'll give people like at least a week or whatever to go out and see the movie. But at the beginning, right, they show like his family life and stuff like that, and how like he's living at home with his family and everything. And it was like, but that's not actually Mario in the games, like at all. Right, because Mario and Luigi effectively grew up as orphans in like New York or whatever. New Donk City now is how they retroactively. He was never ever not in the Mushroom Kingdom or on the same planet as it. But Mario and Luigi are from the Mushroom Kingdom, right? Like that is the story. They returned to it. They didn't know their parents or anything like that for most of their life. So like this is. I don't know. It's kind of like an Elseworld Mario story, I guess is a way to say it, which it kind of excuses everything. Is like, oh, this would be Mario if it was a completely different, even multiverse than what Mario already is, just with all the references and stuff like that.
Yeah, I guess. I'm definitely not that nitpicky. Yeah. I really didn't care.
Yeah. Well, these are like core parts of like Mario's character, though.
Are they?
Yeah, actually they are.
All right. I will say that Jack Black fucking stole the show. Yeah. He was fantastic. He was really great. And you could tell that he was doing a voice unlike some other people, Seth Rogen. He was totally into it. Just, kind of like how actors have to be willing to make a fool of themselves. Like he was doing the part. He was really into the part. It was really great. Donkey Kong, although thankfully he didn't talk very much, but when he did, it totally took me out of it because I'm like, it's fucking Seth Rogen. I can tell. It's just he didn't even try.
Well, so there's been 2 different interviews with him so far where he's given different answers on this. Yeah. And the answer's bullshit when somebody gives you 2 different answers within this short time frame on different interviews. The first one, he was asked that he was asked to be in the movie multiple times and he turned it down a couple because he said he just doesn't do voices, right? Yeah. And eventually he just turned in when they said that you didn't have to do a voice because they wanted him in the movie. I don't know why, but they wanted him in the movie. The second interview, the more recent one with the Hollywood Reporter, when asked why he didn't give some type of weird voice for Donkey Kong, was that it didn't seem to be the type of role that needed a weird voice. It was more about the dynamic than anything. Which, if that was the only excuse he gave for everyone, if that was the reason, I'd buy it, because, I mean, most of voice acting is not the range of the actor, it's the actual ability to act.
Yeah.
But one, it's Seth Rogen, and two, it's been all over the place, so I don't buy, like, anything he's saying about it.
Mm-hmm. Well, I will say that, the other character that was hilarious beyond, and this went beyond what was seen in the trailers, was the Luma, the cute little
Oh, I
blue
hated that.
star.
The thing it was so cringe in the trailer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it gets dark. I mean, that thing goes to some dark places later on in the movie, and it is so cute. And I was just like, oh my god, I can't believe how dark they're getting with this character. Like, it was beyond just like where he says, like, you know, the only escape is the sweet relief of death or whatever, relief of death.
Yeah.
And it gets darker from there. So I thought that was a really cute character. Toad was just there. Toad was just kind of silly, but not anything. But I will say, so like some people, again, I got some pushback where people were like, "Oh, Peach was such a girl boss, and she did everything." But I'll tell you, from the second half, or from the end of the second act, all the way through the third act, it was all Mario. He was the hero. By the time the second act was, wrapping up, I mean, it was him all the way. Peach was still there. She didn't slink away or anything. She was still there. She was still fighting, etc. She was still doing her best. But the movie shifted focus really to Mario by the end. And it was just him doing his thing. And so I really thought that it did justice to the character. It didn't put him as second fiddle in his own movie. And I mean, right up to the end, it was clearly a Mario movie. There was a bit of, as you might expect, a bit of Peach outdoing him at the beginning. But I'll tell you one thing. She was not a fucking bitch about it.
Yeah.
She was super nice. She wasn't making fun of him. She wasn't belittling him. When he failed, she kept encouraging, and the theme of the movie was basically, which just kind of goes along with the video game, was like, when you fail, just get up and try again. Just try again. He kept trying again, and she was
I
like,
would say
honestly,
the core meaning of the Mario games is to just keep moving forward.
Yeah. And there's a part where Peach and eventually, I guess, even Bowser was like really surprised that he just kept getting up and trying again, and he kept getting better. And it was just like, it was like, oh, he's not going to give up. He's going to keep trying and getting better. So, there was one line that bugged me that Peach said, but I think it was a throwaway, but I won't even say it, but generally, I think that might have been what some of the ridiculous feminist critics might have had a problem with, was that she didn't belittle him. She was encouraging, even when he failed, even when she did better than him. She was trying to she kind of did the thing where, I don't know, there's kind of this trope where, like, if a woman does better than a man, she'll like pretend she didn't, or try to encourage him, or say, oh no, you actually did better than me. She kind of did that a little bit, and it was kind of like, oh, that's interesting. She's just trying to pump him up and say, you're doing fine. So but yeah, there were the best parts of the movie were the video gamey parts. I mean, that was ultimately the movie. It was like, okay, now we're doing Mario Kart, and that was awesome. Now we're doing a genuine, like, Mario level, like, beyond. At the beginning, it was like a training level. Now we're like in the real level, and he's kicking ass, and he's jumping on things and tossing shells and getting power-ups and all kinds of shit.
Oh, Rick said he didn't know that Mario is from the Mushroom Kingdom. Yes, the first time they actually tell you this is on the Super Nintendo in Super Mario World 2 Yoshi's Island, which is where you have Baby Mario on a Yoshi's back as they try to save his twin brother, Baby Luigi.
Yeah. They did have the baby forms of all of them at one point. Or a couple points that I won't get into, but it was really cute. And I will say I was disappointed with the end credits scene. It was kind of nothing.
Yeah.
I was really expecting more, but whatever. Kind of leaves the next movie, if there's going to be a next movie, it could be anything, because the end credits scene didn't really mean anything.
it does seem that Chris Pratt and Charlie Day, at least, are already keen on making a sequel to the movie.
They were great, by the way. I thought those voices were fantastic.
Yeah, so from an interview, Miyamoto apparently specifically asked for Chris Pratt. Right now, before we knew, he said he was excited for it, but it was only recently we found out that he specifically asked, and it's not even clear whether it's because he thought Chris Pratt would be the best actor for the role, but part of it, as Chris was talking about it, is that they met backstage on a late night talk show that they were both on at the same time, and they talked to each other, and then they met again at the opening of the Super Nintendo World, because he went to it. So they already started building up this like little buddy friendship thing, and that's probably the main reason why he asked for Chris Pratt specifically.
I was wondering if it
like
was
you embody what I picture Mario to be, kind of.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he basically did his Emmett voice from the Lego movie.
Yeah, his Emmett voice is almost just his normal voice.
Almost.
Yeah. Like it's actually his Andy voice from Parks and Rec. It's this naive, excited guy who, in some ways, he's like a little too stupid to not be optimistic.
Yeah.
I just thought it was funny listening to or watching the Lego Movie 2 and having two characters voiced by Chris Pratt talking to each other, and it's literally just how he talked a couple of years ago versus how he talks now.
Who's the other character? Is he Batman?
No.
Will Arnett, Batman.
Rex something.
Oh, I don't remember.
And as if they didn't make him just talking normally apparent enough that it is also Chris Pratt, the character also flew a spaceship that was crewed entirely by trained velociraptors.
Okay.
Wasn't a big fan of the Lego movies. I kind of liked the Lego Batman movie when we watched it. But the thing is, those movies, up until the very end of the first Lego movie, where they actually had the whole encounter with the boy and his dad, that was like the only part of the movie that felt very genuine to me. But like most of the humor throughout all of the Lego movie was kind of ironic. And I get it, because they were trying to make it feel like this is the humor of a kid playing with Legos, but it felt ironically the humor of a kid playing with Legos, not like genuinely. And I think the only reason I like the Lego Batman movie, looking at it retroactively, is because it is really ironic and making fun of all the things I've grown to hate about Batman in like the last 10 to 15 years. But if it was more genuine, with more long-term history of like when Batman was better, I probably would have liked the movie more. And I think that's my issue with the Lego movies in general, is that they just don't seem like very sincere or genuine movies.
Mm-hmm.
See, the only thing that I feel like the Lego Batman movie was missing to go along with like the humor of how Batman is nowadays versus the old days is if they just had another Lego Batman that was voiced by Kevin Conroy, basically popping up as like what Batman sees himself as.
Well, you're not going to get that now.
Yeah, definitely not.
But speaking
Rest
of
in
that,
peace,
though,
Kevin.
one of my biggest fears of this movie, right before going into it, was from the trailer. It looked like it was having quite a bit insincere humor in it, like with the penguin scene and stuff like that. How sincere was the humor in this movie on average?
I don't know. I don't know. Understand that question. I'll tell you, it wasn't overly humorous. It wasn't like joke like an MCU movie. I mean, it was there were humorous. Every situation was, had some humorous
Comedic
parts,
like value to it.
Yeah,
Because,
comedic,
you're trying to keep it fun.
There weren't
for
like
a kids movie.
Yeah, there weren't a bunch of stupid one-liners. Yeah. Like I feel, is that what you're kind of like, where they're like, what does he say? Surrender or whatever, and it was like ridiculous.
Yeah, it was like after tasting just a fraction of the might of our it would have just been funny on its own without dialogue. But then they added this dialogue that kind of almost subverts the situation, and it's like one-liners don't have to be insincere. We actually go back to like the 80s where one-liners kind of became a big thing. There was a lot of sincere one-liners, but then the one-liner became such a trope to throw in that it became almost ironic to have one-liners, and people would try to throw them in everywhere, and a lot of one-liners end up being like ironic humor. So, I mean, if they try to keep the one-liners to a minimum, that already kind of raises the sincerity level of the humor.
Yeah. No, I thought the whole movie was pretty sincere. I don't like. There was one line that Peach said that was a little like, That was kind of a groaner, kind of that was like the only thing in the whole movie that I was like, I could have skipped that one line. But other than that, like I said, all of the situations were somewhat humorous, but the whole movie was pretty sincere, and it was pretty, like, there were reasons for everything. There was a reason why they had to do the Mario Kart thing. It wasn't just stuck in for no reason. There was actually a reason they needed to go somewhere. And there was a reason why, the bad guys show up, and I thought that the parts, the fan service, the parts where, with question mark blocks and certain power-ups were thrown, it seemed organic. Like there was a reason again. It wasn't like, there's just for no particular reason, all of a sudden there's this, special power up or something. It was, it all made sense, I thought.
Okay, actually, I have a big question. So, I've been spoiled on the movie, but I still haven't seen it. So I only know the broad strokes, right? Not specific things. The real world that they came from, like from Brooklyn, it was basically not supernatural or anything at all, right?
Correct.
Okay. So
although there was a dog that seemed a bit
but it was supposed to basically be like the
Overintelligent.
real world, and then Mushroom Kingdom's another world. So Cranky Kong didn't recognize Mario when he showed up.
Right.
Cranky Kong should know Mario.
Was he in the real world or something?
Well, and his dad was. Was the game Donkey Kong?
Yeah, Cranky Kong, depending on the translation, was either
is
the original Donkey
Jr.
Kong or Donkey Kong Jr.
Yeah.
Well, in this movie, in fact, there was actually a Donkey Kong video game in the movie, in the background that somebody was playing.
Yeah.
So all of that was not canon to this movie.
Yeah, see, if I were to make the movie, what I would have done for the reason they have to fight and earn his respect or whatever is I would have had them be on okay terms when Peach showed up, but the fact that she brought up Mario would have suddenly just ruined all of their relations, because he would have recognized, and Mario would like maybe have like a flashback that happened. It's like, oh no, and then it's like you'd have to like re-earn their
because
of the problems. That's what I would have done.
They basically implied that they were on that Wrecking Crew was canon. That they were
Yeah.
working for Spike before, and then they went right to being plumbers from there. So there was no circus or
Yeah, Mario's had several odd jobs throughout
Kong.
his career. He was even a referee at one point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will say, is there a Kong that has like sunglasses?
Funky Kong?
Funky Kong, yeah. So he's in the movie. Diddy Kong's in the movie. The just cameos.
Yeah.
They don't really have anything
Well,
to do
Buck,
with
you were
anything.
hoping Funky Kong was in the movie.
Yeah, he does have a cool part. Yeah.
Like, I also kind of hoped Funky Kong was in it for kind of a selfish reason, in that maybe Nintendo would use that as an excuse to add him to the roster of characters they're adding back in to Mario Kart through these updates.
Yeah. Because we thought they
Could
were
be.
done with characters, and then they added Birdo. So like, oh, well, that means people are back on the table.
Yeah, I think they said that they intended to add 6 more characters before they added Birdo, so that means there's 5 more
Yeah.
slots.
And
And they're
Funky
all
was
supposed to be
a
characters who
crowd
used to
favorite.
be in the... Yeah, and it's all 5 are supposed to be characters that used to be in Mario Kart.
Yeah.
So that would leave Birdo, who they already added, Petey Piranha, King Boo, Funky Kong. I'm trying to remember who else has been in that.
Did they
isn't
ever
in
add
at the
Dry
moment.
Bone back, like the regular one?
Yeah, Dry Bone was in the base game for
Okay.
Mario Kart 8.
I haven't played Mario Kart 8 since the Wii U, and I barely remember it. But Dry Bone was one of my favorites back on the DS. Did they add Dry Bowser back?
Yes, he's in it
Okay.
too.
The one thing I wish they had more of, I guess, I mean, they had time. It was really like 90 minutes max. It was really, it was a tight movie, I guess.
It was
that's
like
a good
normal average movie length,
Normal
like
length.
88-minute runtime.
thing. I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
But they could have had time. They could have added 5 more minutes of Luigi. He goes. He runs into Dry Bones and some Shy Guys and Sniffets from Super Mario 2,
Yeah.
and it's kind of a scary sort of Luigi's Mansion kind of scene. I wish that had been a little longer, and he had, I don't know, run into more ghosts, or I wish it had been more of a haunted house from like Super Mario World kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Just a bit more. That was the one thing.
Well, so
Where-
like, I hate the fact that they made the Toads useless, because like the Toads aren't useless in the Mario games. It's the fact that like Bowser comes and invades with like magic and stuff like that. Like he turned most of the denizens into bricks before. Mario and Luigi show up in the midst of an invasion where the princess has already been kidnapped, and like most of their army has been taken care of with magic. So it's like these guys who weren't around when the magic was cast come in and they solve the problem. So the Toads aren't supposed to be useless. It's just like Bowser is just more competent. That's always been like Bowser is a really competent villain, and that part it seems like they're actually serving right. Like it's not that people aren't trying to resist him.
He's
Bowser's just
menacing.
Bowser.
Yeah. They had him breathing fire. Obviously, like
He's got K-Mac.
what's his? Yeah, K-Mac
Yeah.
did a lot of the heavy lifting. He did a lot of the magic stuff, but Bowser himself is kind of. He was pretty imposing, and
like he's
he
supposed
took
to be, like,
over when
he's one of the most
when he needed
competent
to.
villains in video game history. If you actually look at his track record, he pretty much always succeeds, and it takes some great hero like Mario to come and clean up the mess.
Yeah. So there was only one thing, which I don't think spoiled anything, but I feel like Jack Black forgot the name Peach at some point, and they just never corrected it, because he calls her Peaches a couple of times, and I'm like, that was weird. Like, why did he call her Peaches? Like, he called her Peach other times, but then he accidentally, and I was like, that's strange.
Yeah. I also feel like, and I blame the fact that this is just the evolution of the series, because things are definitely very much different now than they were then, right?
Yeah.
But
He never
especially
called her
Odyssey.
Princess Toadstool.
Yeah, yeah. But like because of Odyssey, Odyssey because of how gaggy the ending is, and I guess you could even say like this kind of started as early as Sunshine. Bowser has kind of somewhat become simpish, right? Like originally, you assume he is the king of a kingdom. He is invading the kingdom, which is what it actually says in the manual, that he invaded the kingdom. That he wants to marry Peach because she's the princess of the land, and that gives him an actual like entitlement to the land if they're married. Like it's a way that you can take over without resistance after that point.
Yeah.
But then like it starts to get away from that over time, and I heard this version
actually in
is
love with
very
her.
much like that he's in love with Peach. It's more of like the Odyssey version that we have now.
Yeah, but also it's both.
No.
Actually, he also basically, I don't know if he says it explicitly, but it seemed implied that he wanted to marry her also because it would give him some sort of legitimacy to rule the world, rule the land. So it was both, a bit of both.
Oh, that's good.
So,
because like old Bowser, aside from like if we take away this is also Japanese theater, so there's obviously humor in the games for that. Old Bowser always just struck me as somebody who was just diabolical. It's like, this would give me the right to the land if I married her.
Yeah.
And the Mushroom Kingdom, as we've seen progressing in other games as it goes and goes, is the largest swath of land on that planet.
Yeah.
Like the Mushroom Kingdom is basically the UK. They've got territories every like Delfino Plaza. The whole island of Delfino is part of the Mushroom Kingdom. There's just all kinds of bits. It's almost actually more of an empire, because we see in like Mario 3, there are kings that are like governors in smaller kingdoms within the property of the Mushroom Kingdom.
Yeah. It seemed to be what it was like. Although, well, it was hard to tell. And I don't know that they didn't really get into the politics of.
Well, you wouldn't expect them to do it. Like it would have to be mostly implicit, because that would start to get a little too above what your average child could follow watching the movie.
Right.
Yeah.
We have fiefdoms and lords and lairds. Yeah.
Like the fact that
They
they
also-
even recognize that like Donkey Kong and like the Kongs and stuff are actually like their own kingdom and stuff is probably like the extent of politics you're going to get in a movie like that.
Yeah, where they didn't necessarily have to do whatever the princess said. But yeah, the Donkey Kong land was really cool looking. The intro to it, just the intro scene when they first get there, is really awesome. And the music was fantastic.
I read they didn't credit Grant Kirkhope for the
Yeah, they
DK
definitely
rap.
had the DK rap.
Yeah.
At least they didn't use the words, but you could hear it. There was the music.
Yeah, where's it?
And,
Actually, there's a article. Yeah. So he was not
actually asked
credited
him-
in the Super Mario Brothers movie.
Oh wow! I asked him on Twitter if he was going to get royalties from this, and he said he actually answered and said he didn't think so.
Yeah. He even tweeted too, like, I was really looking forward to see my name in the credits for the DK rap, but alas, as expected, it's not there. FML.
That's rough.
Yeah. I like Grant. He's a cool guy.
Yeah.
Follow like him on both Twitter and Instagram. He's always posting interesting things, callbacks to the stuff that he wrote. He's a pretty cool dude.
I still love the Banjo-Kazooie medley video that Family Jewels did, because Grant was in it.
Mhm. I mean, I guess when you do these things, it's more just work for hire. It's not like comic books where they have some sort of agreement that you own the IP to your stuff. I mean, that's just not the case. He was hired, he was paid for the job, and that's it.
Yeah, but you typically, and I don't know if it's because they found some exception with it, the Screen Actors Guild and a lot of the international copyright stuff is really, really pedantic about crediting specifically like licensed music and things like that. Like if you've ever seen like the music credits at the end, like you have to list everything. So it must have been some weird thing with how like, Nintendo's ownership of it is that they didn't have to give a credit. But
I didn't
typically
pick-
it's like really, really specific.
Yeah, I didn't pay super close attention to the credits to see if they listed out all the songs. That's a good question. I'm sure they listed some of them because some of them were pop songs that they played.
Yeah.
But I don't know if they listed like all the tunes from all the games that they played. So I doubt it. Because they would have had to put Grant's name in there.
Yeah, we did get another quote from him too, because Seth Rogen called it one of the worst rap songs of all time, and he said, "If you told me in 1997 when I wrote the worst rap track in the history of rap tracks that it would go on to be in a Mario Brothers movie, I would have burst with excitement."
Grant Kirkhope said that.
Yes, right? That is what Grant said.
Well,
yeah. See, I actually have a lot of articles pulled up related to the movie, which makes sense. You know, it just came out. People were very hyped about it. Trying to.
Well, my bottom line is, I highly recommend seeing it in the theater. I think it's good enough. I mean, it was what I would call a great movie. Not spectacular, but good enough to see in the theater, which is a high bar for me anyway. I don't see a lot in the theater.
Already pre-order the Blu-ray 4K Ultra HD discs of it's already up for pre-order now.
Sweet.
Which I don't even think it has anything to do with the expectations for opening day. I mean, they knew it was going to do good enough that they were going to rush the Blu-ray out as fast as possible. So expect it like maybe within a month after it's not in theaters anymore.
Well, I would recommend it if you're any kind of Mario fan, seeing it in the theaters. I am probably not more than once, but just seeing anything in the theaters these days is high praise.
Right now, just for the worldwide opening, it's expecting 225 million.
Like for the first weekend?
Yeah, no, just for the opening.
For today?
Yeah.
Okay. I will say for a matinee, it was quite full. I would say about 50% full, my theater.
Yeah. Now, some people are saying that's their estimate extending into the weekend for the theaters, but like the actual initial estimate they're saying is like, no, we're expecting that for today. The weekend's just be generous to cover our bases, but we're expecting that for today.
I guess I won't try to go later tonight because I'm guessing it'll be packed.
Yeah, probably.
Cool.
Yeah. And so we also have some things, because big video game movie, there's a lot of other video game related stuff. Some Mario, some not. There was interviews with Miyamoto recently. He was obviously translated, but they were talking to Variety. And he said several different things. They asked him when the next Mario game was. And he kind of avoided that question pretty gracefully from what I saw. And he just like deflected it, saying, please stay tuned to future Nintendo Directs. I don't think he even knows when the next one is. Like, he produces them. He doesn't work as hand-on as he used to. He just has to oversee the process, make sure they're not messing anything up. But like,
I will say, I wish
all kinds of stuff for scheduling on that.
Yeah, I wish they would go into the Super Mario Galaxy stuff in the next, if there's going to be another movie. That's what I would like to see. I would like to see something involving Rosalina.
I'd rather see a war over Dinosaur Island.
I think you might be closer to what's going to happen, at least based on the ending.
Yeah, because who doesn't want to be around Yoshis?
Yeah.
There was also a big question about how his view on violence in video games, right? Because he makes such a child-friendly game, and well, he says Mario is a character that never hurts people. That is factually not true. He just does it in cartoon violence. Mario stomps and kills things all the time, but it's supposed to be it's a cartoony.
Depends on what you mean by people.
Yeah.
That's another thing.
Koopas are sentient and sapient. Actually, even sapient, as far as I know. So he's killing sapient beings.
I will say one, I don't know, surprising but like pleasantly surprising thing was that they did not shy away from violence.
Yeah.
In this movie, there was a lot of punching. I mean, you saw in the trailer where like Donkey Kong was like slapping him,
Yeah.
like that. Well, there was also like closed fist fucking punching across the
being
room,
thrown into walls and stuff like
yeah,
that.
yeah, which
I
you
mean,
don't
this
see
is
a lot.
DK. I'd be upset if there wasn't a moment of him just punching someone like crazy.
Yeah, and not just him. I mean, Mario was punching people. Bowser was
Well, that's
punching
what Mario
people.
does. Like, he punches bricks. In
Yeah, it made
64, he
sense.
punches enemies. Like, yeah.
It made sense. It's just nowadays with kids' movies, they typically shy away from that stuff, but they did not. They were like, no, he's going around punching people's lights out. No, that's good.
Yeah, but so Miyamoto too specifically said that he has absolutely no problem with violent games, right? And that was a shock to a lot of people because they're just like, but you don't make violent games. It's like, well, that's just because that's not what I want to make. He finds it his personal mission to find other ways to make games interesting and fun, but he's not against like shooters and other violent games. It's like there are many mediums of entertainment for people, and he wants, as long as things are properly rated, which has always been Nintendo's thing too. As long as things are properly rated, you do you. Sell your game to people, and I'm just gonna continue making fun games with Mario and stuff like that.
Makes sense.
I mean, that's Nintendo. They prefer It's not like they even don't make violent games. We were talking about Mario. Zelda is a violent game. It's just all cartoon violence. It's not graphic violence or anything like that.
Yeah. Enemies disappear in a poof of smoke.
Yeah. But I mean, if you
like
run a
lie
sword
bleeding on the
through
ground.
somebody, that's kind of violent.
Kinda.
Yeah. Throwing bombs at people. Like there's a lot of things in Zelda that if it was more graphic, you wouldn't think twice about the violence in it.
Yeah, yeah.
But I get what Miyamoto means, because they don't call cartoon violence in Japan. Like I can't remember the word. They have a different word for it. But they have like general distinctions if you ask them if something is violent or not. When they talk about violence, they're pretty much always talking about graphic violence, which is something you would see more of like rated M games and stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah.
But on the cusp of that, we just got an announcement today that a new live action Street Fighter movie is officially coming.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Okay.
So hopefully it's better than the last like two that were made. I mean, I like the first one. Some of them for good reasons, some of them for all the wrong reasons. It's a very charming movie that it's one of those cases where the creators of the movie clearly played the game, but they didn't understand what was going on in the game that they played, right? Though, I mean, just the whole Bison Chun-Li scene is gold. You could watch that scene over and over again and enjoy it. The other Street Fighter movie, we try not to talk about for good reasons.
Which was the one
have
that
been great.
had Raul Julia? The good one or the bad?
That was the one I was talking. That was a good one.
Oh, okay.
That's the one it's charming. It's got a lot of charm to it. Even though in many ways the other one's more accurate to Street Fighter, it's just a worse movie in like every single way.
Yeah.
But yeah, this one, hopefully, they're taking notes on how people like accuracy to the stuff getting adapted. Looking at this movie, looking how well like Detective Pikachu did, looking how even better Sonic 2 did than the first Sonic, which I would argue the first Sonic is not really a Sonic the Hedgehog movie, but Sonic 2 is very much a Sonic the Hedgehog movie. Hopefully this trend shows us that they will make an accurate-ish Street Fighter movie.
Yeah, I've said a few times that Sonic the Hedgehog, the first movie, was just a decently entertaining movie that happened to have Sonic the Hedgehog in it.
Yeah, it's just Hop, but with Sonic instead. That's basically all the movie is.
Yeah.
And then Sonic the Hedgehog 2 is an entertaining Sonic movie.
Yeah, it actually follows like a Sonic plot. You've got other Sonic characters. The dynamics feel Sonic. I'm like, yeah, this is a Sonic movie. I wish the first one was more like this, but yeah, it's good.
Yeah, the first one was. They really could have substituted any character almost, like just generic animated sidekick
Yeah.
guy that goes really fast. So it
So-
could be anything.
Here's the hope, though. The Street Fighter movie is coming to us via Legendary Entertainment.
Ooh,
Right.
yeah, that's a pretty good one.
Yeah, they've been doing good with the kaiju stuff, with like the Godzilla films and everything. They worked with Warner on Detective Pikachu. They were the ones that brought the Warcraft movie. For all the flaws in that was still very much a Warcraft movie. Like, you felt like you were just watching a Warcraft story while watching that movie. So, like, I think that's probably the best company you could go to in the West to adapt your thing. And they're great with graphic integration without making the movie look any less stylized. One of the things I hate about most of these companies that try to do realistic things is that they end up muddy. They end up not like actually leaning into the style of the thing that they're adapting. But that wasn't a problem with Detective Pikachu. That world looked lush and fully Pokemon. So I feel like if they do a Street Fighter movie, they're going to have like all the effects. Like a Hadouken's going to look like a Hadouken. It's not just going to look like whatever the hell Goku was doing with his Chi Blast in Dragon Ball Evolution,
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I'm a little excited for this one. Still hold my breath a little bit, but the fact that Legendary is the company on it, I have high hopes for it. Let's just hope it doesn't fall through the cracks, because I'm still waiting for Legendary's Gundam movie they were supposed to be making for the last decade. And man, would they did Pacific Rim, they would make a great Gundam film.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Seems like it.
Yeah.
I like Pacific Rim.
Let's see. Google also added some retro Easter eggs to the Super Mario Brothers movie searches. If you go and search Super Mario Brothers movie, there's like question mark blocks and stuff like that come up at the front of the screen. I think if you click it, it actually makes the signature 8-bit coin sound, and every 100 clicks you get a 1-up.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know if I want to do this 100 times.
Yeah, somebody actually sat there and clicked it. They do this stuff all the time. Like if you type text adventure in your browser, and you like open your browser's developer console, you can actually play a Google themed text adventure game in your browser.
Cool.
Yeah.
Oh, it did it. I hit 100.
Nice.
What's it called? You do text adventure?
Yeah, if you type in text adventure, and then you hit like F11 to open up the developer console, you can actually play a Google themed text adventure in your browser.
In the code?
That's what it says.
What?
I don't know. Is it not working for you? That's what. Let me look.
What do you do?
It says
You open up the
search
console?
text adventure, right?
Oh.
And
wait.
then you hit F11.
Would you like to play a game? Oh my gosh. What the hell
I
is
think
this?
mine's not F. You know what? Because F11's full.
It's
screen.
F12.
Yeah,
It's F12
on this one. Whoever wrote the what's it called? The article put the wrong one. Like F11's full screen.
Yeah, you're right. That's cool. A strange tingle trickles across your skin. You feel lightheaded and sit down. Blah, 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 blah. Huh.
And it's because Google has a bunch of nerds working at it. Who would expect when you're a tech company?
How did they put this in the console? That is so weird. It's like, that's for like JavaScript errors to pop up and stuff.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And it's mostly there for devs who are like running their own websites and making sure that it's compatible with Chrome and stuff like that. But
yeah, like you can run inline JavaScript commands and stuff like that to test that variables are set the way you expect.
Or if you ask any random Twitter user, the actual use of the inspect function is to blackmail people by changing their tweets and taking screenshots.
But it's not that; it's the console.
Yeah,
which
it's
a
the
different
console.
function. So, but yes, that is what I use F12 for most of the time. Inspect element.
Let's see. There was another one. Konami is opening a new Creators First studio in Osaka, which is kind of exciting. It's their next generation of R&D for video games. I think they're kind of like realizing that they just fucked up for like the last decade or so of making video games, and they're just like, no, okay, we're gonna make studios. We're gonna have creators be the focus of it, who are gonna have visions. I really think it was literally Bloodstain that made them change their idea, because it was one of their own creators went off and made a game with a vision, and it was super successful. So that's what they're going to do, is they're going to find visionaries, they're going to create some games, and they're going to allow their stuff to actually be successful.
Mm-hmm. Well, duh.
They've indicated too that they intend to return after moving away from AAA game production. I wonder though if, as they return, they're going to continue to stay away from the image of AAA game production, right? Because like, you could argue, even though these are the games made previously by AAA companies, something like Bloodstain being indie doesn't have the appearance you expect from a AAA game company, right? And that's kind of how you want a lot of the games from Konami to play. Like, you would want Contra to be, to some degree, a side-scroll run-and-gun. You wouldn't want Contra to suddenly be Call of Duty, just with a higher bullet pace, right? So I wonder if they're going to look at that, with maybe the one exception being the fact that they're remaking Snake Eater. Metal Gear, because of the direction Metal Gear Solid has gone, that's like the good franchise for keeping in the modern aesthetic of like AAA games, right? Putting all your 3D models into this huge open environment and stuff like that. Like, that's the perfect one to keep. But like Castlevania, I think people want in like a 2D mansion, like people, or a castle. Like, it's come to how the best game play for Castlevania has been. And a lot of their games, they should look at it with that mind. Like, you could put money in it, put a bunch of money, make it as good as possible, but give them the actual core gameplay experience that people want from the franchise.
Yeah.
I thought that was exciting. Pokemon
Someone
Stadium
pinging
is
me on
coming to
Discord.
Switch Online. So if nobody's ever played Pokemon Stadium before, you get to enjoy that for the first time. I don't know what they're going to do. They'll probably just end up disabling it, because I doubt you can make it work with Pokemon Home, especially only restricting it to Kanto Pokemon. But Pokemon Stadium had this little feature where you could put your cartridge for your Pokemon games, like Red, Blue, Yellow, in this little connection at the bottom of the N64 controller, and you could import your Pokemon to fight each other in the 3D Pokemon Stadium. They also had rental Pokemon that you could use to play through the whole the campaign of the game. So you're probably going to be stuck with rental Pokemon, I would guess, unless they have like... Actually, that'd be weird. What if... I wouldn't be surprised if they just put an emulator in the game, because the game could also play Pokemon Red, Blue, or Yellow if you put it in there. There was this tower you could go to called the Game Boy Tower. If you had a cartridge in and you hit it, much like the Super Game Boy on the Super Nintendo, it would literally just pull up Pokemon Red, Blue, or Yellow on the Pokemon Stadium screen, and you can play it that way. So it'd be funny if they just ended up putting, like, I don't know, just a version of Yellow into the game so people could play it and pull the Pokemon out.
Yeah, I mean, they just, wiped access to a ton of Pokemon games, so any way they can try and bring those back would be nice.
No.
I mean, official access.
Let's see. Oh, they're saying it will not carry over to the Nintendo Switch Online version. That's lame. They should.
No.
They could literally just double up and just give you an emulator of Yellow. Like, just put the ROM in there like it's docked in permanently, and that's just your copy of Yellow.
Yeah.
That'd be a great way to run the game. It'd be a nice little surprise, like, haha, you've got 2 games here.
Yeah, I don't know if they've got this really nice emulator that apparently is like one of the best or the best one out there for Game Boy and Game Boy Advance. Just pump all the games in there. Just throw them in. At least whatever you have, the rights to.
Which is clearly Pokemon. They're the rights to everything that's Pokemon. But they do have a lot of fun mini games in the section. So like that was probably one of the most fun things you could do. Oh, hey, Dillard. One of the most fun things you could do in Pokemon Stadium was do the minigame challenge. So that'll be in there, and people can try that out.
Mm-hmm.
They also confirmed future releases to the Switch Online will be Pokemon Stadium 2, 1080 Snowboarding, which is not the best snowboarding game on 64, but a great snowboarding game, and Excitebike 64. I mean, nothing's as good as Snowboard Kids 2, and I will fight to make my breath with that.
Yep. Hey, Dillard, what's up?
I've never been snowboarding. I couldn't tell you which game is the most realistic or fun.
Oh, it's not about realism. It's just about fun.
9 times out of 10, a game that goes for realism is less fun.
Yeah.
I feel that because my favorite basketball game was NBA Jam.
Love NBA Jam.
And my favorite football game was Blitz.
Yeah, you know what? You can actually get both
These
of those
games
on the same 1-up arcade machine.
The
Nice.
only time
Both of those games are
realism
entirely
ever
unrealistic and great fun.
The only time realism ever made a game more fun for me was watching my dad play one of the old PGA Tour games, because it turns out you could actually get a reaction if the ball hit a bystander just in the nuts.
You're telling me it's better than Hot Shots Golf? I don't think so.
It's like, yeah, I think my favorite.
No, I mean, of the
basketball
game, the
was,
only game that I played that I was like, I wish it was not, I wish it was not as realistic as this stupid game called, like, what was it called? It was, I forget who made it, but it was basically a fishing game. And it's there were points in that game that were too realistic, like not catching anything at all.
You just
Man,
throw,
if I want that, I'll
throw
just
you
go
on
fishing.
for hours. Yeah. Just hours and hours, nothing.
And the little character guy you're playing as, you just be flicking the bait around, going, bite it, bite it.
Come on. You know you want it.
Yeah. So,
So did you see?
what
do
did
you-
we see? No. Say it.
I was going to bring up a different topic.
Yeah. I
usually.
was going to move
Sorry.
on anyway, so bring up your topic.
Have you seen what Wizards of the Coast is up to with Dungeons and Dragons lately?
You'll have to be more specific. They've been up to a lot of things with Dungeons and Dragons lately.
Two things. Shenanigans. So first off, D&D 1, or is that what it was called?
Yeah,
one
D&D
D&D.
is what they're calling it.
Yeah. That's not what they're calling it anymore. Or
Oh,
they're
they changed
going
the
to
name.
Shortly. Yeah.
Good, because 1D&D is retarded.
Yes. So basically, it's what they, and they've said this before. I feel like they said this before. They're going back to saying it's 5th edition D&D, sort
We
of
might as
5th
well call
edition
it 6th
forever.
edition, at this
Yeah,
point.
but they're
It's-
not.
It's different than 5th. They literally changed the rules
Yeah.
again.
Yeah. So they're not. They basically have said 5th edition is the last, always, forever edition. Period. End of story.
Okay, so I'm going to call it
But-
5.5. That's what we're officially
Yeah.
calling this ourselves.
And they specifically said we are not calling it 5.5.
Well, we are.
But
Sorry.
Yeah. They're calling it
Not
5th
sorry.
edition. They're calling the next version 5th edition 2024
Yeah.
update or something like that.
It's
And
like Baby Yoda Grogu all over again.
yeah. And among the updates, probably the stupidest one, I mean, They've done a lot of stupid
Oh,
shit.
you're talking about
stuff
getting rid of
like
half races?
getting rid of half.
Oh,
races,
yeah, I saw that.
It's just
Oh,
okay.
I'm-
Can't be a half
just-
elf. Can't be a half elf.
Yeah, I'm just gonna refer to this with one of the lines from one of the few good Marvel movies. I recognize the council has made a decision, but given it's a stupid ass decision, I am electing to ignore it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so here's the thing about like, the whole
gotta wonder-
half race stuff, right? So I saw that they said they were getting rid of it because half races were always inherently racist, is what was their excuse.
Right.
Which I think is doubly racist. You're like, oh, so now you're against like interracial marriages and stuff like
Right.
that.
It's
But
like-
even worse, it's only getting rid of things that have half in their name, like half elves, half orcs, and things like that. When if we roll back the clock in their lore, you'd also have to get rid of things like tieflings that have like mixed heritage and stuff like that too, that they're just going to ignore because tieflings
you'd
are one of
have
their
to-
best-selling things.
Yeah, you'd have to remove tieflings altogether and make a new infernal race.
What are
Also,
what are
Goliaths,
tieflings?
you'd have they're
half
they're
human.
Yeah.
and
Half-
also part
half
like demon.
or fiend
Yeah.
or whatever.
So when did 5th edition come out? Was it 2014?
Was it?
That sound familiar?
It's been out for a long time now. It might have been 2014.
Yeah.
Because this book that I have says first printing August 2014. So is this the first edition of 5th edition? I guess so. Because it has 2014 all over it. So, yeah, I'm going to hold on to this fucker for dear life.
5e was
Never
first
letting
made
go.
available in January of 2012.
Okay.
There
So
are
this might have-
several variants of the 5th edition book, which we
Another
found out
worthless book you got there, Marsupial.
when Buck bought his, and there was slightly different information in his than our Dungeon Master's version of the book. And also
Well, when we
different than my PDF of the book.
When we started working with
I have
Wizards
an
of the
NFT
Coast,
book. What do you think about that?
when we started working with Wizards of the Coast, it was 2015, and I think this is
Yeah.
one of the books they gave us. And don't tell anyone, but I still have the Adobe Illustrator version, which I think
Wow.
is identical to this. So I'm still holding on to this for dear life because, as far as I'm concerned, this is a decent. I like 5th edition. Okay, at least this version of it. I'm never going to change to any of the bullshit they did after this. So.
When I was playing 5th edition, you told me that I was a loser and a noob.
Yeah.
Well,
That has
what does that have to do with anything? Yeah, like yeah, and
No. Not in general, but for playing 5th edition.
Oh, well, that's my opinion more than anything. 5th edition
Well,
is better than 4th.
Cutting
I will say
words.
that
They
for
came
sure.
from
Yeah.
Marsupial. I remember them.
I was probably just
Talking shit.
He was
talking
drunk.
shit. I don't know. I was probably drunk. That was my second one that I've finished, so I'm drunk now.
Oh.
Anyway, that's all I wanted to add was that Wizards of the Coast is being stupid, and and they
I
had
have
some
a question.
sort of
I'm a little bit of an old fuddy-duddy, and I think when I sat down and started learning about D&D, I didn't like the fact that they had mixed races. I thought it was kind of like, you're trying to fucking be cool. You have your cake and eat it too. I didn't like that. So I'm kind of like not been out of shape that they're getting rid of the mixed races.
Well, so it depends, like...
I don't know. Is that a shit take?
If you've played older campaigns, the two big mixed races that have been around forever actually make sense to the lore, right?
half elf and what's the other one?
And half orc. Are the,
Oh,
the
really?
two
Half
that are
orc
around.
wasn't in first edition though.
It wasn't
think.
AD&D.
It was.
Yeah, half orc was an AD&D. So the whole reason
Don't
that
remember
is,
that.
it was definitely before it switched editions again. But the whole point was that orcs couldn't be playable because orcs are inherently evil. But a half orc isn't inherently evil, right? Because of their
Yeah.
human shared ancestry. So that one was playable, and half elves, which had almost an equal stigma but for different reasons, existed because some elves and some humans got along to the point that they would marry and breed. But elves widely are purists, mostly. It's funny because actually there's two perspectives on this, but the wide one is that you are tainted if you are half human. So you are not accepted from that society, but also a lot of humans don't like elves because how much elves think they're better than humans. So you were probably looked at worse from human society too. You had really good stats for being a half-breed, but you were probably going to struggle in any society you went to because most societies were ran by humans or elves. You actually probably be fine at a dwarven society because they wouldn't look at you any different than they do almost
Like a
any
Vulcan.
other race. Yeah.
Yeah.
But there are very few elves that actually thought to reach the highest point of their mission from their god, they had to breed with other ones. So there was like this small sect that thought, no, you're actually achieving your goal by having half-elves. And there's lore reasons why they exist. And then they kind of took all those lore reasons away for both of those. So now it almost doesn't matter they exist, and it also doesn't matter that they're taking them away.
I liked half elves because like they were typically stronger than elves. Like humans were usually stronger, so they're kind of in between. But they had more magic ability than humans.
Yeah.
Typically.
So there was no stat downside
It was kind
to
of
playing a half elf. It was the
it was kind of
honestly,
in
the best-
between a human and
the
elf.
best race you could play, but and this is why it sucks now because they're almost like a power race similar to like playing a lot of the monster races and stuff. The downside was in the world, and it was harder for you to get through the world, like playing a tiefling, right? It was harder for you to go through the world playing a half elf than you could if you were just playing a human or an elf who had worse stats. And that matters when you're playing a role-playing game, which I think they've kind of lost the meaning to.
Although if you're a half elf, you could hide your ears. I mean, don't they typically
You
have
can
a
wear, like,
beard?
a
Yeah,
hat.
they grow a beard.
They can,
Yeah.
unlike
They're
elves, they
real-
can get like human facial hair.
Yeah. So the only thing was that they usually would have the ears.
But you'd have to
Well,
do
that-
things.
you know-
You'd have to think about that in mind. It's like, oh, I need to buy a hat or a hood so I can walk
Yeah.
around town and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Or,
Hats
you're in
as
a
a human.
desert. It's like, well, I'm still wearing my really thick hat even though we're in a desert.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, well, it's been a day. I'm gonna have to add 1 point of exhaustion because you overheated from your hat on. It's like, well, that's the cost I'm gonna have to pay to hide my ears.
Yeah. Apparently, Wizards of the Coast had a creator summit 2 days ago, and it did not go well.
Yeah. I'm sure it
Gee,
did.
I wonder why.
Yeah. Apparently, there's a lot of complaining about the whole OGL controversy and obviously stupid shit that they're doing with the game. And so, yeah. I don't
Well,
know.
because
Who
of
is
this,
Wizards-
I'm hearing that the only good thing to come out of D&D so far is the new movie, and not for the reasons that Wizards of the Coast hoped it was. It's because supposedly the movie has so many stupid moments that it feels like watching someone actually playing a D&D campaign.
Yeah.
Like you've got a dragon in that film that can equally be referred to as both the beast approaches and oh lord he coming.
Yeah, it feels like it's like they're being subsidized by Hasbro to basically just do whatever they want, like for themselves, with absolutely no regard for anyone that actually plays the game. Like,
Yeah.
kind of like Marvel and DC. Like, who is this for? Well, who are these changes for? If you play the
People who
game,
don't play the
everybody who
game.
plays the game. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's another thing that a lot of people are talking about. All these new characters who are being brought into the MCU. It's like, one, people aren't going to like these things because it's either catering to people who don't want to watch your stuff because they're not interested in the first place, and then you're just going to drive away the people who were interested because why they were watching isn't there. You want to know why my mom watches Thor movies? Because she thinks Chris Hemsworth is hot.
Yeah, so
what did you think of
they
Fat
went back
Thor?
to that, but obviously Fat Thor is the problem, right? Like they had to go
Yeah.
back away from Fat Thor and make him buff again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's like you make a new Thor movie that's about Jane Foster. Guess what? All the women who are watching this movie because they think Chris Hemsworth is hot ain't gonna be interested in watching a woman play the same role.
Yeah.
Well, speaking about making things for nobody, that actually segues us into another topic I had pull up. So they have plans for an HBO Max 7-season reboot of the Harry Potter franchise, which, looking at 7 seasons, means they're trying to do a book a season.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I'm so here for this.
I wouldn't be, because these are also the same people who hate J.K. Rowling and want her to have nothing to do with this series.
Shit.
Yeah, so there's probably going to be some
Is it in here?
changes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's more...
Knowing how things are going, it's going to be drastic changes too.
But has
Well, yeah,
she
like-
given up control to that degree?
I don't know, because I think their original license is still ongoing because they renewed it a few times. So I don't know how much control she can. It does say she has creative control on the decisions. So we'll see how that actually goes. But the way that a lot of the other creatives in the Harry Potter media space have been lately, I would not be surprised if it's going to be drastically different than the movies that we've already seen.
Not to mention, we do have to remember that while J.K. Rowling does go in certain ways when it comes to her stuff, she also did try virtue signaling for a while by retroactively saying things that were never in the books.
Oh yeah, watch.
So
This
will
time
probably
Dumbledore's just
be
gonna
altered.
gay the entire time. Like he's gonna act
Yeah,
gay.
like they're going to make Dumbledore flamboyantly gay.
Of course.
And Hermione will be a black girl because, you know, J.K. Rowling claimed that she always intended the character to be black, even though she was described as pale, even compared to other British kids.
Yeah, but remember, she was black in the musical. That's gonna be their excuse.
Yeah, but it's like, if you're okay with the character being played by a different race, you can say that. Don't try to say that you intended the character to be that race when you obviously didn't.
Plus, again, who are they doing this for? The people who would give a shit or would want a black Hermione are not going to watch it because they hate Rowling. And the people who like her or care about or, you know, still like Harry Potter or whatever, they're going to be pissed off. So
My guess is they saw the sales for Harry Potter Legacy and just assumed that that's going to be the same crowd who wants to watch this show. It's like, no, you're probably going to get 1/3 of the people who played that watching this show.
yeah. But still, like, okay, but those people who played that game don't want a race swapped Hermione.
Yeah, they don't really want that at all.
So
yeah. I actually don't think she'll be race swapped. I know that was a big contentious thing a while back, and it was mostly related to the fact that they did like a Harry Potter play musical and all that, and she came up with these excuses. And personally, I really don't care who plays somebody in a play. Plays are a completely different medium because it is a live performance where you work with the cast available, and you're going to have different casts over different periods of time. It's different than a movie, which is a fixed.
I don't care about
like,
plays.
canvas
I just want to
medium.
make sure that
Right.
in the TV show, Dumbledore is played by Dylan Mulvaney.
That.
it's important. And just being a raging homosexual. That's the important thing.
Yeah, but he's gonna have to actually wear like a beard.
Just,
No,
you know,
I don't know
having
if that
sex
will
with a
work.
Walking
kid.
around holding his butt cheeks
mutilating.
open.
Of course, you know, in Harry Potter's world, you know, in Hogwarts Legacy, it was incredibly stupid to have a trans character because you could just take fucking Polyjuice Potion and become the
Well,
opposite sex. Become anyone
temporarily,
you want.
but they probably have
Yeah.
more permanent solutions to it as well.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's called psychotherapy.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, they have those type of solutions
they,
too.
uh,
They can go into people's minds and memories and stuff. I
Yeah.
feel they have like two different directions you could go using magic in that case.
I don't know. I feel like this is what I feel like. I feel like
Also-
they're gonna do everything right, and it's gonna be very good.
I would like that actually,
Well,
because I read the books. I actually like the movies more than the books because having to make certain decisions to adapt the book into film, I feel like they cut out a lot of the weakest parts of the books. So if they
Yeah.
keep that in mind, but also stretch it out so they can include some of the cooler things they cut out, a series could be good. I'm just not holding my breath for it.
yeah. I guess we'll see.
I know why. I know why they didn't cut it out, but I wish they would have cut out Dobby.
Stupid Dobby.
Yeah,
And I wish,
I
and I
never
hope that
really
they.
felt the impact of his death either. Like,
Yeah.
it didn't really feel like it was that much
Or
of a
his
driving
life.
force.
I
Yeah,
was like, oh, the little CGI creature that is barely in it is gone now.
well, and he does more in the
Shucks.
book. It is like even in the book, I still didn't feel the impact of it. You
Yeah.
know?
And they should
I'm not
definitely
gonna- I'll
have.
be honest here. Like whether they get rid of Hermione or not, Hermione in the book was kind of, especially with the House Elf riot or the protests and all that stuff. I was kind of like, I could take or leave Hermione, getting towards the ends of the book.
Yeah.
I want actual book version of Ginny Weasley, right? Because she was kind of like a bruh.
Oh, yeah.
She acted a lot more like her brothers, and she was like really chill and helpful to Harry in like the last half of everything. The movie version was like this meek, awkward, no self-confidence whatsoever. Like that's nothing like how she was in the book.
But she tied his shoes for him for some reason.
Well,
I mean,
I was
she's
gonna
cooler than
say-
Ron, so like I want book
Yeah.
version of Ginny.
I was just going to say they should definitely include Tom Bombadil in that.
That's a wrong franchise.
I don't care.
You took him out of
why,
Lord of the Rings,
Tom
put him in
Bombadil
Harry
is the worst
Potter.
part of that book. Why does everybody love this guy?
I love Tom Bombadil in Lord of the Rings. Okay, I love him. He is
Why?
great
Explain
because he
why,
doesn't belong.
please.
It's because he doesn't belong there, and he's actually a throwback to an older story of.
I know that, but
Tolkien,
why do you
right?
like him?
He's got a very good cadence to him. The way that he talks, you can tell how he sounds by the way he's written, because he's written poetically. And the purpose that he shows is that there's this really serious world that you're not supposed to be taking as serious as you do.
That's the reason?
Yeah, people actually take that story way too seriously. There's songs and stuff all throughout the book that got cut out in like the movie versions that aren't even being sung by people in general. It's almost like a poetic epic, right? So like these songs would be sung over a scene without the characters even being aware of the song. And Tom Bombadil's there as kind of like the point that you're not supposed to take life as serious as you are. And if you don't have characters like that, Lord of the Rings becomes much darker and more serious than it's supposed to be.
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't take
He's a
Harry
great
Potter very
character.
seriously at all.
I don't. At first, I don't think you were supposed to. That series got kind of darker. I mean, it never got too dark, but it got darker with each book because I feel like she was fixed onto the audience that started with it, and she was trying to age up the stories with the audience that was reading the books.
Mm-hmm.
What's wrong with that?
No, I actually don't think that's
I
anything
mean,
wrong
if
with
Marvel and DC and Wizards of the Coast would do the same thing, it'd be wild successes.
Yeah. But no, they just
But what do you
decided
do?
to
I have
appeal
no idea
to.
because Yeah, I'm looking at webtoons, and I'm like, I mean, the most popular stuff on webtoons, stuff that has like over 50 million views and stuff like that, it's all garbage. And I'm like, who's looking at this stuff? Well, 50 million people, apparently.
Hmm.
Maybe I'm out of touch.
I don't know.
I don't know. I don't think it's all.
I did
garbage,
watch-
but it's definitely there are certain genres that take control in those areas, and a lot of any genre is garbage. You look at like anything, like a good chunk of it's going to be garbage. But there's some good versions of the genre that's just not going to be for everyone. A lot of rom-coms and stuff take over.
I was watching a live stream. I wish I could remember whose channel it was, where somebody was going through all of these web comics and just all these subversive things, and half of them didn't make sense to me, and the other half were just, I don't know, dumb or dark humor, I
Was
guess, or
it
something
the
like that.
matriarchy I was on, where we were looking at edgy?
Oh, yeah. Was that you
social
on
media
that?
comics? Yeah.
Yeah, but apparently they're extraordinarily popular.
Yeah, they are.
That was yes, I remember that live stream.
Yeah, I
only
remember
a
seeing
few
you in the
days ago.
chat.
Yeah.
A few days ago. It was literally a week ago today, because that
Oh,
only
okay.
goes on Wednesdays.
Very good. Are you having one tonight?
Yes, I will be on one tonight after we wrap this up, which we're right
Cool.
at the end. I believe we are talking about the death and return of Superman. So, if everybody
Sweet.
remembers that. Yeah.
Cool.
Which-
Tune in to the matriarchy.
Yeah, I'll post the link somewhere. I usually at least retweet it. I'll probably put it in the content sharing section of the Vomitorium Discord. But that is a good chance to wrap up the show. Thank you all for showing up. Thank you, Dillard and Buck, for hopping on. Obviously, thank you, Marsupial, for being here as always. But you're the one I expect to be here. Thank you all for watching, either now or in the future. If you enjoy the show, please share it with somebody else who will like it. It really helps us out. And if you really enjoy the show, consider giving a donation to streamlabs.com/Vomitorium Live. Every donation counts, and we'll see you guys in the next episode.
Bye bye.